Hello, and thanks for joining me. Look who's back.
This is going to be a quick live. Peace and blessings from God, our Father, and the mighty Lord Jesus Christ.
If you're kind of new to my channel, this character is Almando Calvo, aka Christ Righteous, aka CR Ministries, aka, a number of things. His most recent handle is Christ Righteous Ministries, with a space between Christ and Righteous. So the nickname kind of makes sense to me now. It's like Christ Ascendant or Christ Triumphant, only the attribute he wants to focus on is righteousness. Anyway, after messing around with other areas of interest, including K-pop and some kind of martial art, I think, a few years ago, Almando settled down as a Christian evangelist YouTuber. He makes videos of himself street preaching, as well as music videos of himself singing or rapping over publicly available backing tracks. And he wrote a book. This is the book. I have done several videos about this book, as has YouTuber Logic, and it is the prime example of what Almando Calvo is best known for on the internet: plagiarism.
Plagiarize! Let no one else's work evangelize! Remember why the good Lord made your eyes, so don't shade your eyes about plagiarize, plagiarize, plagiarize. Only be sure always to call it, please, research.
Entire paragraphs, even entire chapters of this book were lifted word for word from other sources. In a page in the back of the book, he listed the authors of some of these sources, but only some of them, without making clear that he ripped off their intellectual property. Rather, he simply thanked them for the inspiration. In a subsequent edition of the book, he added a disclaimer to the title page, claiming that this book is an elaboration book in which he expounds upon other arguments, and it's not intended for plagiarism. Only there's not much elaborating or expounding going on. Mostly, as I said, he just rips off the arguments word for word without proper attribution. If I publish the full text of the Da Vinci Code under my own name, with a few paragraphs of my own badly written garbage, and then on the last page I thank Dan Brown for the inspiration, then it's still plagiarism. As of this video, the book is not available to the public. More on that later. Anyway, Almando has been absent for a few months, posting only the occasional meme or short, not doing anything of substance. But a few weeks ago, he posted this live stream.
I wanted to kind of come on here real quick. I haven't been on my channel for quite a long time. And I know a lot of people have been asking me, where have you been? A lot of people who follow me on my Instagram, my social medias, Facebook and stuff.
You mean the social media accounts you set to private after all the attention you were getting?
So I'm okay. For everybody wondering where I've been and what has happened to me, I am 100% okay. But I got some big news for you guys. Very big news. So first of all, I just got back from my honeymoon. I just recently got married.
Hey, congratulations. I guess this means you can start having kids now, right?
With my newly and beloved wife. We just got back from our honeymoon from Hawaii. So we went to Oahu, Hawaii. Listen, Hawaii is beautiful, gorgeous.
Yeah, but you really should have gone to the Big Island.
I just want to thank everybody for their love and support. I want to thank everybody for the support of my book, God Is.
And that is the only mention of the book he makes in this video. And if you were hoping that sometime away, some journeying across the ocean and into matrimony would make him develop a sense of personal responsibility for his plagiarism, you are going to be disappointed. He still refuses to take responsibility or even show awareness that he did anything wrong with the book. The book, as I said, is no longer for sale on Lulu or anywhere else on the internet. However, according to another recent live stream he did, the book will soon be republished with some changes. What changes? Well, the cover is a lot more purple, I guess. He swapped out the background image there, and he's using different fonts. And best of all, in absurdly tiny print, he lists at least some of his sources. An incredible elaboration, he says with incredible humility, and then lists titles and authors of books as well as websites. He doesn't frame this as an admission that he did anything wrong with his plagiarism, but simply says, oh, this reflects some changes they wanted me to make, and now it's verified, they've verified it, which means it's all good. Except that, as we all know by now, Lulu's verification process is an absolute joke. Nor, as far as I can tell, and like I said, it's absurdly tiny print against a busy background, did he credit every source that Logic and I caught him plagiarizing from. Almando, on the off chance you ever actually watch this video, What you've done here makes your work a little bit closer to not being plagiarism, but unless you've massively reworked the interior of your book as well, it's still plagiarism. In order to not be plagiarism, you have to, at minimum, cite the author, title of the work, and page number for each instance of material which you have copied or paraphrased. You can do this in parentheses after each individual instance, or if you don't want to interrupt the flow of your work, you can do it with footnotes or endnotes, but you have to do it each and every time. By the way, if you look at the philosophical videos that I've done over the last few months, the fine-tuning argument, the moral argument, Bible contradictions, and so on, between them, they've refuted most of the chapters of Almando's book, and have done so without even mentioning Almando or his book, because I haven't needed to. That's how derivative it is. Anyway, back to the big comeback video.
Thank God first and foremost. Thank the Lord Jesus Christ. Without God, I probably wouldn't have been able to, spend such an awesome, amazing time at such a beautiful tropical place as Hawaii. So,
in the sense that God made Hawaii? This is why I say you should have gone to the Big Island. When I was there years ago, I visited Kilauea. I actually walked on a wide open field of volcanic rock which I was told was only a meter thick. That was intense, being separated from lava by half my own height of some very young rock. It was those volcanoes which made Hawaii, not divine agency. Or do you mean God is good to you for personally sending you to Hawaii? Did God give you the money? You certainly didn't get it from book sales. My guess is that a relative of yours or your wife's gave you the money to go to Hawaii. I hope you're grateful to them.
Now I said I have big news. Now the big news is this. It may not be big news for a lot of people, but to me it's big news. It is a career path that I've chosen. That's not going to put aside my ministry, because I'm going to be including my ministry in this career path.
A theme I've had going in my recent videos is about how any Tom, Dick, and Happy can call themselves a ministry. When I grew up, I thought that having a ministry meant certain things in the way of, infrastructure. But now people are calling themselves a ministry by working out of their car, out of their bedroom as you're doing, out of their kitchen, whatever. If I wanted to be grandiose, I could say that what I'm doing is a ministry for reason and clear thinking, but it would feel far too awkward to have a ministry set up in my home office. Call me old-fashioned, call me stuck in the past, but I think more than that is needed for an actual ministry.
And I'm going to be joining the military. Yes, you guys heard that nice and clear. I'm joining the military.
If you're expecting me to be startled,
Oh my God!
I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Joining the military is a pretty common move for people who A, aren't in the best financial situation, and B, want to feel like they're doing something greater than themselves. It does startle me that you're not getting that from your so-called ministry. Surely doing God's work is more important than doing your country's work, and so it's a step down, or maybe a lateral move if you're going to preach to your fellow soldiers.
So, lately I've been training hard back to back to back to back. I'm actually going to be opening up a channel of just my experiences from before, from being a civilian to then becoming a enlisted soldier. So I want to take you guys through that process.
The channel he's talking about now is up. It's called U.S. Christian Soldier, for God, my family, and my country, and possibly, judging from the font he's using, for the Jedi as well. It has no content as of this recording, and in fact, looking at this video and the few he's done since, there's no mention made that he has actually been accepted into the Army. Not that I expect the Army won't take Almando, I mean, it's not like he's applying for a research position, but actually being accepted into the Army would seem to be a critical first step before one is entitled to call oneself a soldier, and not in the poetic onward Christian soldiers sense of the word.
But I can tell you which branch I am choosing, which is the Army. I'm choosing the Army. And there's a lot of different job opportunities within the Army, but I've decided that I want to serve my country.
When Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait back in 1990, and then President Bush gave him an ultimatum to withdraw by such and such a date, Hussein responded by preparing for war, World War I style. He had tens of thousands of soldiers dig networks of trenches ditches, and minefields on the border. It was called the Saddam Line. And on February 23, 1991, when coalition forces invaded, it was destroyed in less than 3 hours. How? We just ran it over. We had something called a combat earth mover, which is basically a cross between a bulldozer and a tank. And we just ran the whole thing over and filled it in. To this day, we don't know how many thousands of Iraqi soldiers were buried alive and without a single American casualty. I'm not saying that serving in the army is the safest job in the world, far from it. Nor am I saying it's not commendable to want to serve the public in some form. But serving in the army is not the noble self-sacrifice that, at one point in history, it might have been.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about what Jesus has spoken.
I'm pretty sure that if Jesus had encouraged military service, I would have remembered that. I suppose the whole render unto Caesar thing could be considered a call for patriotism, even if it simply means obey the laws of your earthly government.
And thinking about my life as a Christian and what type of mark I can leave as a Christian, as a follower of Christ. And I remember Jesus once said that there is no greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends.
Depending on what particular job the Army decides to stick you in, you'll have a better chance of actually laying down your life if you work as a pizza delivery driver. Source: I was a pizza delivery driver for about 2 years, and in a relatively rural part of the country. It's a surprisingly dangerous job. Folks, tip your delivery drivers and tip them well.
In the United States, in this same country that I devote myself to serve and protect, is the same country that also has a lot of people, even on the internet, that dislike me, that hate me, that despise me, atheists, agnostics.
Yeah, I don't have the stomach for your martyr complex bullshit today, so we're gonna skip a lot of this.
And pretty much just protect our loved ones and our families. And I want to express that through my life towards you guys. And that goes for every single atheist, every single agnostic, every person who's made a bad video about me, every person that's made a good video about me.
Have people made good videos about you?
Every person that despises me, hates me, left nasty comments.
You don't allow a single comment to exist that is less than 100% praiseworthy of you, which means most of your videos don't have a single comment, except for those left by your sock puppets. Oh, that's right, you don't use sock puppets.
I want to show you, like, there's no way that I can express to you guys enough that I genuinely love you guys. I'm genuinely not hurt by any of your comments. It doesn't bother me.
I'm glad you're not hurt, but I'm bothered that you're not bothered. As a rule, people should feel bothered when they've done wrong. You've stolen intellectual property. You've passed it on as your own.
And there's no way that I can really express that to you guys. You know, it's one thing to come on this video and say, man, none of those comments bother me, whatever. But you guys could just be like, you know, you guys could easily be like, oh, this dude is just saying that just to say it, or he's bothered, or blah, blah, blah.
No, blah, blah, blah!
And you guys will leave it at that. So the way that I'm going to express how much I do forgive you, because you don't know what you're doing, how much I do forgive you.
You stole intellectual property. You pretended to be the author of most of the material in your book. All we did was say so. Since you're a newlywed, let me give you some advice. The 3 most important words in a marriage: I was wrong. I've been saying those 3 little words loudly and often for coming up on 10 years, and my wife is happy, which means I'm happy. And as it turns out, they have applications beyond marriage. 3 little words: I was wrong. Learn them, don't learn them, it's entirely your lookout, but I have done nothing for which I need your forgiveness, and fuck you for saying otherwise. Now, I'm going to interrupt myself here and talk briefly about his apologetic content. Almando has not abandoned doing apologetics on YouTube, but he does seem to be relegating them to his short videos. Soundbite-sized presentations for him to echo the soundbites he's getting from websites, although he has been putting effort into rephrasing the soundbites into his own words, or, to use his grandiose term, elaborating upon them. Let's look at a couple of his apologetic shorts. They're 1 minute long each, and the first one, entitled If You Don't Get It, Then You Don't Get It, I'm going to play the first 90% of without interruption.
Atheism, according to the definition, An atheist is a person who disbelieves or lacks a belief in a god or gods. Notice how this title only explains that they lack a belief in God. Well, that says a lot. In fact, if that's all that atheism is, then by definition, they're not saying that there is no God. They just intellectually deny that fact. Now, they may try to smack around arguments like a tennis ball, but ultimately, they just lack a belief in God. That's like me telling my brother I'm going to give him $5 after school. He may not see the $5, he may not believe that I have the $5 or that I'll give him $5, but if it's true that I'm going to give him $5 and he does not believe me, his disbelief does not disprove the fact that I'm going to give him $5. It's the same with God. Just because you lack a belief in God does not mean that he does not exist. In fact, because you say you lack a belief in God does not disprove him.
First of all, this is one of the worst produced videos I've ever seen. It's like a creepy Blair Witch style tour of what I assume is his mom's house, from the kitchen to the hallway to, as we'll see, his bedroom. Second, so far, pretty much everything he said is true. Atheism is a lack of belief in gods, and a lack of belief in gods does not by itself disprove the existence of gods. That's why it's useful to distinguish between positive and negative atheism. Negative atheism is atheism proper, the lack of belief in gods. Positive atheism is a subset of atheism, which is the positive claim that gods do not exist. And this claim is supported by arguments such as evil, suffering, divine hiddenness, the scale of the universe, and so on. If every one of those arguments failed, positive atheism might be in a certain amount of trouble, but negative atheism would be entirely unaffected. Anyway, like I said, Almando spends the first 90% of his video more or less telling the truth. Then, he makes up for it.
It simply means that he does exist, you just don't believe in him. You don't trust him, nor do you want to follow him. Simple logic.
And there's the old Almando. If you lack belief in Allah, does that mean Allah exists, you just don't believe in him? If you lack belief that your wife is a space alien, does that mean your wife is a space alien, you just don't believe it? Best of all, if you lack belief in the non-existence of God, does that mean it's true that God doesn't exist, you just don't believe it? Are you proving the truth of atheism? Of course not. What you call simple logic is actually simple-minded logic. Saying you may not believe in God, but he exists anyway, is nothing more than a statement of our respective positions on the matter. It proves nothing. The other recent short video is called "The Concept of a God Being Exist, Therefore God Must Exist, and Atheists Know It," smiley face. What's the Excedrin headache number for a lack of S's?
Here is a new challenge for you atheists out there. Why is it that atheists try so hard to argue against the existence of God? And please don't give me excuses.
First, we're doing the creepy Blair Witch thing again. Second, that whole "please don't give me excuses" thing is a preemptive attack against the need to even consider any response we might give. My own response, whether you want to consider it or not, is when certain elements of a society are trying to legislate harm to millions of people based on, or at least excused by, a faulty assumption, there is a place and there is a need for people to point out why the assumption is faulty.
But let me just say this. I believe strongly that atheists believe God in their heart. They're either angry with God, deceived into accepting lies, or they just simply want to go their own ways. Atheists know in their heart that God exists. They just simply suppress the truth in unrighteousness. They lie to themselves so much that they end up believing in their own lies.
So clearly Almando doesn't have a coherent position here because he's contradicting himself. He's saying both that atheists do believe that God exists and we believe that God does not exist, although the latter is a lie. But if we steal a man's position, if we are as charitable as we can be to it, Almando might be saying that there are no inculpable atheists. That all atheists on some level know that God exists and have taken culpable action to suppress that knowledge. I love it when apologists make this claim, because it leads to the single most powerful and inescapable argument for the non-existence of God. Premise 1. If God exists, there are no inculpable atheists. Premise 2. There is at least one inculpable atheist, namely the atheist who is reading this. Conclusion, therefore, God does not exist. Now this is simple logic. Premise 1 comes from Christian theology, or at least Almando's brand of it, and premise 2 comes from our own self-knowledge. It won't convince apologists, of course, but this actually makes the argument even more powerful because they think the first premise is true. They don't see the first premise as a problem, which means they won't correct the problem, which means the argument will continue to persuade new atheists, specifically negative atheists, those who simply lack belief in God, that positive atheism is true. It may also be effective against open-minded theists.
If God absolutely did not exist, then there should be no reason why you would try so hard to disprove God, or argue against him, or those who believe in him. Just live your life and go your own ways.
The sheer quantity of jump cuts here is making me nauseous.
But on the contrary, you can't say the same thing about us. It would be wrong to reverse the argument and say that us Christians believe in our heart that God does not exist. That's just logically ridiculous. Because if a God absolutely did not exist, there'd be no reason to believe in a God. Therefore, the concept of God would not exist.
I happen to think it's true that there's no reason to believe in God, but again, just to steel man you here, I think what you're saying is that the impetus to believe in God would never arise in the first place. The concept of God comes from the same place as the concept of Allah, the concept of Zeus, the concept of Thor, the concept of Sauron, and the concept of Jean-Luc Picard, the human imagination. In primitive days, when neither skepticism nor the scientific method really existed, it's easy to understand how such imaginings might turn into actual beliefs about what is true in the world.
But because God does exist, atheists got to deal with that conviction.
Your conviction, not mine. But the reason we don't reverse the argument is not because the concept of a thing proves the actual existence of the thing. The reason we don't reverse the argument is because you'd have to be both an idiot and a jerk to claim that an entire religious demographic is deliberately lying about what they believe.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Anyway, let's wrap up by looking at the end of the comeback video.
You guys are going to get great content because I'm going to be in a better situation. If you guys didn't know, I currently live with my mom, okay? I have a child. We just recently moved back from Texas, and we couldn't afford a place to live out here. So my mom allowed us to live in her 3-bedroom apartment because she has this extra room. So we've been here.
Here's a historical fun fact for you. 2 years after completing The Wealth of Nations, the book which is probably the single best-known apologetic for capitalism ever written, the author, Adam Smith, moved back in with his mom. Go figure. So I don't think that's something you should worry about. But this is.
That's what I've been doing, studying, taking practice tests. I actually start school next week. So yes, I am going back to school.
However good your intentions, you're not going to have much luck with that if you continue to refuse to take personal responsibility for your actions. I mean, if there's something I want from you, Almando, I don't want to hurt you. I want to get you to realize that you did something incredibly wrong. I've spoken at length about what a big deal plagiarism is. See, especially my video, Yes, Almando, It Is Plagiarism. And Almando, if you don't realize it now, when you're on the threshold of going back to school, a place where there are actual, tangible consequences for doing what you did with your book, then you won't be able to avoid those consequences. Well, anyway, since it's unlikely you'll ever actually watch this video or learn those 3 little words that are the key to success both in marriage and life, I don't think there's anything to do except wish you the very best of luck. And for those who are watching this video, if you enjoyed the video and want to help my channel grow, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Be sure to hit the bell to be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to share your thoughts on Almando or on military service in general, leave a comment below. A huge thanks to all my Patreon supporters. You help make this channel possible. If you'd like to become a supporter, see the link in the description. Thanks as always for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. I'm David John Wellman, and the rest is up to you.